Okay. July 11th, 2024 at 7:38. We will call the ZBA Board of Appeals meeting to order. Roll call: Bill Bland, Rick Maloney, Steve Schwartz, myself. Applicant in receipt. ZBA-24-2, application for a 20-foot variance for the required 50-foot from table 8.02 front yard setback minimum zoning regulations to build a new house at 20 Kohler Road. Judy and Brian Cartwright, applicant, and Michael Johansson, applicant. Okay. State who you are and who wants to speak first.
Brian Cartwright, my wife Judy, and hopefully our general contractor, Mr. Johansson.
Good evening, Michael Johansson, 37 Old South Willington Road, Willington. I'm here to talk with you guys this evening to see if you would possibly lend us a variance on 20 Kohler Road. We're looking to build a small, roughly about 1,000 square foot retirement home for Judy and Brian on the property which they currently own. The reason why we're asking for a variance is we're looking to construct a small ranch with a little oversized one-bay garage, and the topography of that land in the back drops off very quickly. It was never really intended for the footprint of the house that they're looking to build. It was designed for something much narrower with a big walkout basement, which we're trying to build something very small and one level. So it's taking up a little bit more room. And if we were to try to keep with the 50-foot setback, we're going to have to bring in an enormous amount of fill, which that site has already been filled once before, just to even bring up to accommodate. So we were asking for the variance to pull it forward so we can limit the amount of extra fill that we have to bring in to backfill the back of the house, and reduce some of the costs to them. And that is why we're here.
Okay. I recall I was on the ZBA back when they did the subdivision to create this lot, this parcel. At that point, there wasn't a buildable square, and that's why they brought this fill in to meet the requirements and create the buildable square, which then meant they didn't have to come to us. They went right to zoning because it was now an approvable lot. At this, and you're stating the variance is the topography that was created.
One of the previous records that Mike had shown showed what looked to be like a big, tall colonial, something that was approximately 24, 26 feet deep, but much wider. And our footprint is much deeper, approximately 46 feet. So that depth would push us much further down the hill to try to make this 1,000 square foot footprint. So that's why we were trying to see if we could bring it forward to be able to put it on a flatter spot and not be further down that hill.
And so can we have to ask the questions? There's just no physical way to bring it back.
It'll just be hundreds of yards of material to build up enough on the backside of the foundation to even meet frost protection, and to slope it out far enough to even allow water to just not have a sheer cliff off the back of the house.
Don't you have any questions? No, really.
Seems straightforward.
Guess besides the cost of the fill, are there any other limitations to filling that area? And you mentioned it's very steep, but
Correct. I would be worried more about water runoff, retention on that hill. If you actually go to that piece of property now, you can see how high the tree line is in the back relative to where the flat is. So once we start, if we had to build further back, once we start disturbing to even get the foundation in, I don't know how far or what we're gonna have to put for retention walls, even to retain that earth to keep it from trying to wash down that hillside because the slope is so great.
thank you.
The only other thing that I just want to make sure we're all oriented correctly, looking at the plan. So you see the black pointy flags, that's the limit of flagged wetlands on the property. So you don't see it on here, it's hard to follow, but there's an upland review area that pulls off of those lines. So any activity within that, particularly if there was to be more fill placed, would change what approvals were issued originally when the subdivision occurred.
They'd have to go back to wetlands.
They might, I mean, I don't wanna say for sure, I don't know all the details on that side, but generally speaking, you know, you wanna limit impacts to wetlands or impacts adjacent to wetlands. The reason we have an upland review is to monitor activities nearby to wetlands. So the house is being requested approximately at 20 feet, right? So if you move that back, it's going to significantly constrain the distance between the back of that house and the wetland line. So you certainly would need to consider that and figure out, based upon that grading, how it would all come together so that he wasn't either doing any type of drainage, foundation drain, footing drain, whatever, into that wetland area. So that might be something that would need to be adjusted. And the way the lot was laid out, we were looking at it, trying to determine if there were alternatives. It's so narrow, it's not like if he slid the house 100 feet to the south or whatever, he picks up really more width. That wetland line sort of runs parallel with the road. And so when we were talking about that and we were going through some of the other stuff that was in the file, wasn't really much of an alternative that didn't require something, right? He's going to be constrained. And so when you're talking about limiting impacts, one of the reasons why, at least I thought it was worth him asking the question here, is that Kohler, the road right of way likely is not going to feel much impact having a house closer than it would have been. But an inland wetland or in the Inland Wetlands Commission and those types of things there's a greater chance of there being impact to a wetland than a road. And what we like to see is an area behind a house. It's not listed specifically in the regulation, but you like to have an area surrounding the house that's usable because people move about their structure. And if you're right close to a wetland line, what you end up with, and we've seen in other areas, is encroachment. Because people need to be able to get things around their house and be able to maintain it, and be able to do things. And so we try to do sort of a pre-review of these before they get before you, and that's kind of why I thought it was appropriate enough to warrant at least the request.
Rick, is that you? Rick, do you have any questions?
No, I mean, the only comment I have is, we've identified, 2 or 3 hardships here. So, yeah, I have no questions. Yeah, I'm assuming it's a 30-foot front line variance that the applicant is requesting. Maybe we can confirm that also. Thank you.
He's requesting a 20-foot variance to bring the house to the 30-foot line instead of the 50.
Just a question, not that it has any bearings on the world, but how big is the little front porch?
I can't say it's more than 10 by
10 by 8.
8. I'm just thinking the physical house itself wouldn't be like further back to that,
Yeah.
by 8 feet to the
Right.
point, not that the variance
right.
would make a
Right.
difference, but the physical
No,
house
it's a,
would be
it's a
farther.
very small,
It's-
modest house. I mean, the footprint looks larger, but then taking into consideration, part of that's a oversized one bay garage. And part of the, the deck on the back, the screened-in porch on the back adds to that, but it's very modest.
I mean, overall, the heated square footage is something like about 996.
96, I believe. So the footprint looks much larger, but the actual house is quite small comparatively to a lot of modern day homes.
Okay, I do frequent by that property a lot. I live at the other end of Cola Road where it connects to Luke John, the green
Oh,
out
really?
of the metal
Okay.
room. So kind of very familiar with that lot. I tell you different stories, but they're being recorded. But other than that, okay, any other questions?
No, I was just trying to better understand different aspects of the hardship.
Well, I do understand that there are wetland lines that if you were to bring in more fill, you'd be encroaching on those wetland lines.
Which I don't wanna do.
No, that's understandable. You have to keep your distances from wetlands as it says with your well, your septic system, your structures. So you'd be kind of going back and encroaching on them within those regulations. I guess I don't have any other questions. Rick? Bill?
I feel that Mike's brought up a number of very good points as far as encroaching on the wetlands and from my building experience, yeah, you have to have some retention walls and yeah. The possibility of washout and proper drainage would be around the time it's be very difficult. So I would I have no further questions.
Okay, do we have anybody here that would like to speak for? Just state your name or.
Yes, my name is Donald Perzak. My aunt Evelyn owns a property to the south and to the west. And I know that the parcel very well. And it is very wet in the back. And it is quite a slope, so anything you can do, to keep it closer to the road is definitely beneficial. I mean, I think, and also as a professional soil scientist, that your less disturbance you have in that wet area, even though it's not wetlands technically right below where the pad is there, it's very wet in the spring. And I would speak in support of the variance.
Thank you. Anybody else for or against?
Mary Donaldson, 142 Don Turnpike. I've walked that property quite a bit, and there is quite a bit of drop off. And once that drop off is there, the wetlands begin immediately. And any backfill would, I think, impact that area significantly. And so I think, like everyone else here, I also would urge the board to grant the variance, to just bring it closer and leave the back end of the property alone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, without any other questions and without any other speaking for or against, I guess we will close the public hearing for ZBA -24-2. And we will move on to new business, where we will discuss ZBA -24-02. At this point, there'll be no questions asked back or forth, or there'll just be discussion amongst the board. Okay, do we have somebody who would like to make a motion? Steve, want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion now motion that the zoning board of appeals, grants the variance as requested for application ZBA -24-2.
Okay, so that would be for a 20-foot variance from the 50-foot front line setback.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. We have discussion. Anybody like to? Any discussion?
Other places on Kohler Road are been grandfathered in the past, being just as close, if not closer to the roads. An interesting mention.
Do we have the green cards? Do we know if we have those returned?
Yes.
We have the certificate of mailing forms are there. I have the legal notice proof also for publishing in the newspaper. So that was all done.
Great, and we got testimony from a soil scientist, so I'm not so sure we have to go much further than that. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no change and the discussion's over on the variance. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no one?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Still the way?
Yeah, we hope to start soon.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. To Willington.
Okay, moving on quickly, we have approval of the minutes
I propose we accept the minutes.
for the May 6th and the April 13th.
That's right. That is May 9th.
Or the May 9th, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, second, we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, very good, everyone. Correspondence, publications.
Yeah, not have any correspondence.
No, I didn't see any of
It's only
the.
been 30 days, not 3 years, so we haven't had much time for correspondence.
To throw that out there, we are trying to work on a new member. And it's just been a communication block, so anybody knows anybody that's interested in being in the ZBA. Speak up now, please. Yeah, we could use a couple more members, but we have someone in the pipeline and I'm sure we'll get that individual on. That's it. Anybody else have anything to discuss?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Bill.
Painless.
Appreciate it.
Nice presentation.